can go. Hello. Good afternoon, wherever you are. This afternoon, we are happy to be together again on Ɔdadeɛ Radio. That is on our regular education program, Education Standpoint, where this afternoon we are talking about Presbyterianism and discipline through education. And this afternoon, we are happy wherever you are that you are linked up. You can also link up your friends up and tell them where to find us and how to get us. We are streaming live on Facebook, Ɔdadeɛ Radio, or Ɔdadeɛ Radio Ghana. We also have our Instagram at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. You can catch us on Twitter at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Then you can also send us questions and comments on 020, that's by WhatsApp, on 02000929925. Again, 02000929925. You can also send us text messages on the studio phone that goes like 0302 551 014. 0302 551 014. And you can download the Ɔdadeɛ Radio app from Google Play Store or App Store, and you can also get it through Zeno FM Radio app or online. And remember that Ɔdadeɛ Radio is online. You can only listen online. This afternoon, our executive producers are Johnny Adofening, also known as Zonda, and Senior Edifico, Ɔdadeɛ Edifico, who is also at the other side of town. Our technical producer for this afternoon is Joseph Otu, also known as DJ Use. This afternoon, we say welcome again. I am, as usual, your regular host, Reverend Emmanuel Ambrose Asamoah, and this afternoon, I have the honor of having a co-host in the person of Ɔdadeɛ Te Agbemo, and we are all in the studios, and we are happy to have you with us. Our topic, as I mentioned early on, is Presbyterianism and discipline through education. And we want to look at this one with somebody who is an insider so far as discipline and Presbyterianism are involved through education. And so we have no other person than our Regional Director of Presby Education, that is of Presby Church of Ghana for Greater Accra, Mr. Eugene Ajay Lai, who also was born and bred in Presec and has been through Presec, and Presec also went through him. So this afternoon, we are happy to have you, Ɔdadeɛ Eugene Ajay Lai, in the studios of Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Reverend.
Maybe Agbemo will also say good afternoon to everybody, and then we can look at how we get started.
I will also say a very good afternoon to our cherished listeners, and hope that we'll have a very fruitful session. We'll look forward to your participation too.
Thank you very, 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 very much. So welcome wherever you are and listening to us, and don't forget to tell somebody to join us on Ɔdadeɛ Radio online. And I think we want to look at our subject matter straight away, and we want to find out how PCG appeared in Ghana, what year, and how did they come to Ghana. We used to say PCG. I mean, we are not used to saying PCG.
Yeah.
We are used to saying Presby Church of Ghana, or Presbyterian. Presbyterian. When we say Presbyterian, we know there's church, there's school, there is upbringing and everything. Yes. And what is the history like, Mr. or Ɔdadeɛ Eugene?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Reverend. General Richelieu, who was then in charge at the Christiansborg Castle, realized that the lifestyle of some of the people he had with him was not too good, so he decided to invite in some missionaries to help propagate Christianity. So he wrote to the then Basel mission, which had been formed not long before in Basel, Switzerland. and requested that they send some missionaries down to propagate the gospel in Ghana here. So they first sent a set of 4 missionaries who unfortunately all died in a very short space of time.
Oh, Ghana mosquitoes, I guess.
Sure. Exactly so. Exactly so.
Sure.
The mosquitoes were too much for them.
Wow.
Realizing that health was the reason why they lost all, the next set they sent were made up of 3, which included 1 doctor. And incidentally, the doctor was the first one to die.
Wow. That's serious.
The other one also died. It was just left with 1 of them, Andreas Rees.
Okay.
And after some consultation, he was informed that the weather around the coast helped the mosquitoes to, as it were, spread a lot more. So it should leave the coast. So he moved up the Krape Mountains to settle at Ekropon.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when he remained healthy for some time to start his work there. Unfortunately, his work didn't yield much fruit for quite some time. So he decided to go back. And it was when he decided to go back that then Okuapehene, Nana Addo Dankwa the first, in his parting message told him that the book was made for the white man and Abosom for the black man. And that if he is able to get to show them a black man who could read a white man's book, then they would start following his religion. And that was when he left back to the Basel mission in Switzerland.
I see. Interesting. So it means Andreas Rees was charged with going to look for a black man who could read a book.
Yes.
Then we could also be part of what they are propagating towards at us.
Yes.
That was a hard line thing. Yes.
Very hard one.
I see. Interesting. And then what went on after that?
So when he went back, initially they were a bit reluctant, but after some time they decided that, okay, since they had started mission work in the West Indies, they had some people who had the same skin coloration as what we have here, because they were slaves who were sent there.
Okay.
So they contacted the Moravian missionaries, who gave them some of their members, and they then came back with Andreas Rees. So when they got back, they realized that, well, the settlement that he had begun, the building was down. They decided to put up the building once again. So they started work, and now the people there could see black men who could read a white man's book.
Mm-hmm.
And so it initially started getting the people attracted to what they were doing. And they didn't just come with just the mission, but they were also farmers. So they brought in some crops that were not known here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they brought them from where they were coming from, the Jamaica and the West Indies.
Yeah.
So they started cultivating them. They also had some skills that they started sharing with other people around. So at last they could see a black man who could read a white man's book. And as a result of that, they decided to start school. And so that was what formed the rationale behind the setting up of the first school in Ghana here, in Ekropon.
Wow, that's interesting.
I'm getting very good history.
That's right.
And, but on a hindsight, I'll take you back a bit.
Yes.
You said Dr. Apihim asked Reverend Rees that if he could give him a black who could read the book, then they were going to follow.
That's right.
Is it because at the time they were made to think that a black could read and they wanted to see the evidence of it, or he just threw this challenge?
I believe that he just threw the challenge because they were of the mindset that what the new religion that was coming in was meant for the whites. They had their own religion.
That's right.
They had been communicating with God in their own way. So they thought that, well, this is our way, that is your way. So if we are able to see that, then it means that your way is not just limited to the whites, but it can also be spread among blacks as well.
Right. Thank you.
Interesting. Interesting. I see. So that is how come the Basel missionaries who couldn't stand too strong had to go to the Moravian missionaries. That is, I'm sure it was a pastor of the Basel missionary who was working in the West Indies or something.
They were not really a part of, but they all believed in the Reformed tradition. So they were similar organizations, and so they had a relationship.
Oh, okay.
And that is how come they were able to call on them.
I see. Okay, so before they came, we were calling on Cheriampon, Yankopon, and we know that our earth is Kwame. Asase, and Cheriampon Kwame.
Yes.
And they had produced us.
Yes.
So we were always worshipping them. Yeah. And we did that with a lot of vim and vigor in our days. And we had a touch of the Maker. Yeah, I got to know somewhere along the line that it's like the main God who created the heavens and earth should not be disturbed too much. And that is why we have to get somebody to stand in between us. We could call on the main God, the supreme God, maybe once a year. And that was the festival time. Yes, or during special occasions. Yes, and that we had to get somebody who could stand in between. This sounds like the same story as Jesus Christ coming in between the people of Israel and God, the Creator, that's the Father. So it means we had a similar thing running here before the Bible was brought to us.
You know, it's always argued that we had a concept of God.
Yes.
We had a certain idea of God.
And there's every proof of it.
Yes,
there's every proof of it.
Right.
Yes. Interesting. And so there had to be this challenge that if what you are bringing to us, but at that time, did we have Bible? At that time we had a Bible. We had a printed Bible. So it's likely he came along with some printed material, and he was reading alone. So get us another black man who is reading this thing so that we can also read some. We know that our own color can also read. It means we can learn what you are bringing to us. That was a very good proof. Yes. And Andreas Rees took it faithfully. To see it to it that if he's able to fulfill this thing, then the work of the missionaries will continue here. It was a good challenge and a good acceptance to the challenge. Yes. I'm not surprised that we have Rees House in Presec here.
And I'm a proud
member of Rees House. We'll get to that.
Yes. Interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so with this, they started a school. They decided to come and share what they had with other people who are here. So they started the schools in Ekropon, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it true that that should be the Presby Basic School that was started in 1843? Salem.
Yes. Actually, that was what they call the junior school.
The junior school.
Ekropon Junior School.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was the very first school that they started in 1843.
Yes. So that became the second school to be established in West Africa. Yeah. Forabe in Sierra Leone had started. Forabe University. In fact, it used to be Forabe College. Yes. And then so this one becomes the second one in West Africa. We thank God that he opened our eyes through these things early enough. Yes. But why did they choose Ghana? If I should put that question.
It was upon request that they came to Ghana. Was the then governor at the Christianborg Castle was the one who specifically wrote to request for the Basel missionaries to come over to Ghana.
Okay.
So that is how come they came.
As you said, General Richard. Okay. Then he did very well.
Yes.
And that's why our troublesome people have been giving us this statement that the same ship that brought the Bible is the same ship that brought ram also to us.
And snap as well.
My God. I hope that you open our eyes so that we see more. And this question normally comes from those people who don't want to listen to anything the word of God.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, there's some truth in it. The same sheep brought both, yes, but it's not the same people who carry the same things. That's right. Yes, that's interesting. So they started setting up the schools. It means that what were the curricula of the schools then? Looking at the kind of things that they decided to spread around.
The church, right from that early beginning, had a basic principle about education.
Okay.
That education should be based on educating the 3 H's. Educating the head, the heart, and the hand. The head, the heart, and the hand. Because they believe that somebody who goes through school should acquire some knowledge, and hence the education of the head. Now, the knowledge should be such that the person would apply it for the good of society. The person should be concerned about the impact of whatever he does on the next person. And so we needed to bring the people up morally. And so the Christian training was very much a part of the education, so that they train the people's heart as well. And they believe that if a person acquires knowledge and the person is not able to apply his hands to work, then the education is not complete. The person should be able to ensure that his surroundings are clean, because he can use his hands to sweep. If need be, the person should be able to cultivate a few crops here and there, a few backyard gardens.
That's right.
The person should be able to manufacture a couple of things with his hands. And so crafts became a very important part of their education then. Agric was a very important part of the education, as well as moral education, which is the Christian training. So that is how the education was fashioned out at that time.
That's good. It means that with these basics, we can still follow it up in our current situation,
Yes,
and still move forward.
I can see that because I also read somewhere. And that would allude to what Eugene has just said.
Okay.
It goes like this: the Presbyterian discipline refers to exemplary character and academic excellence through self-discipline.
Through self-discipline.
So when he was saying those things, I could just see the character thing running, the academic excellence coming in.
That's right.
And then the self-discipline. It rhymes with the head, the heart, and the hand.
Exactly. Exactly. That's interesting. And so there was the importance of getting some knowledge about what is around. So I'm sure that is where they started introducing us to simple arithmetic and language or some things like that. At least we must be able to communicate. That's the first step. And when we are able to communicate, then we can receive the things that they are bringing to us. So the first school must have been a very rich school, so far as educational content is concerned. Is it possible to get some names of those who entered the school beginning, or school population at the time? It wouldn't be easy.
I believe they began the school with about 5 boys.
Okay.
So,
yes. Okay.
And actually, that pioneer group was also used more or less to start the training college, the Presbyterian Training College, which today is called the Presbyterian College of Education. In 1848, that is 5 years after the basic school began. Yes.
And that became the mother of all schools.
Became the mother of all schools.
That's right.
The mother of all schools of higher learning in Ghana.
In Ghana, that's right.
Yes. And like you rightly said, the PTC, which is now PC, is only second to Furabe College or Furabe University in Sierra Leone, in the whole of West Africa.
Does it mean the basic school could not stand? Or it's still
It's still there. Right. The basic
why
school.
You put the training college ahead of the basic school?
Oh, we are looking at institution of higher learning.
Okay.
That is post-primary or post-basic. Okay. Yes.
I think one idea that I also picked was that from the primary level, there was a need to get the people who were getting over with the primary to be able to come back and impart some of the things that they had done to others. Yes. And one basic thing was had to do with sharing the main aim of Presby coming to Ghana. That is the gospel. And so they had to get these people to stand well so that they can also go back to society and get other people also spoken to in the line of the propagation of the gospel. And that's why the original PTC was set up basically as a seminary, as a seminary to train people to be able to handle the spiritual and the moral development of the people. At the same time, doing the agri courses and then the normal head knowledge kind of thing, so that we can handle our basic arithmetic, basic communication in language and other things. Yeah. And I'm happy to say that I benefited from that one too.
The way you were so emphatic, and you were virtually bringing out the history, you know. But then remember, it also feeds into what the Kwapim said.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Because he first wanted to see blacks reading that book. Now it is coming to the point where blacks will now be teaching that book.
To the local black people.
Yes. So it was just flowing in a certain way.
That's right.
Feeding into that rhetoric.
Just directly.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what was happening was that the products from PTC at that time were not just teachers. But they were mostly teacher catechists.
That's right.
Teacher catechists. So they were doing their teacher job in imparting knowledge, and they're also doing catechist job in imparting the gospel.
That's right.
And I am proud to say that that is one other thing I share with Reverend. Okay. I'm also a product of that great institution.
That's right.
maybe if we have time, I'll also tell my story.
That's right. You can inject it somewhere. Yes. And this has been the trend along the line. Yeah, for the Presby mission and the building up of the proper establishing the church and its education. And I'm not surprised that there are so many institutions that came out of the Presbyterian church, yes, with this kind of basic flow. And so it means that the church has not departed from its original basic things. No. And this has built our country, it has built our continent, and it's built our world very, very strongly by different angles. If you have the people who came here and have been trained and have come through the system and entered into the social life of everybody, have entered into the international life of people, then it means that the work has gone really deep. Yes. So I can conclude that the initial move of the Basel missionary has been very successful.
Very successful.
Very successful. Yeah. So I will not take anybody who will say that the church has failed the country.
No.
Under no circumstance. No, we will not. Because even the language that the person is using in crowd was brought by the same system.
Yes.
Yeah, to be able to know how to communicate. That's very, very interesting. So, what is the extent of the spread of the propagation at these current times?
Well, as a church, I believe that now, virtually every part of Ghana, we have congregations. Okay. And in fact, we even have congregations outside Ghana. So we currently have even 2 presbyteries outside Ghana. We have the North America and Australia Presbytery, and then we have the Europe Presbytery, where we have PCG congregations there.
So we consider their headquarters here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So during General Assembly, their chairpersons and clerks and other delegates also come for the General Assembly.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. Yeah, so along the line, we know that whilst you are training character, whilst you are trying to impart discipline, there are hard lines that we have to follow. Yes, talking about the Presbyterian methods that some of us, in fact all of us here went through, and a lot of the people who are listening to us also went through. It means that we are certain that we've been through some hard things. How were those things introduced? If you can pick some pieces for us.
The life of the teachers who began these things was the first example, the first step towards the introduction of these things.
Okay.
Because when you enter a Presbyterian institution, these things are initially, but from the word go, they become a part of you. You are introduced to them, and sometimes a hard way.
Seriously.
For instance, on issues of punctuality, you are late for one gathering, and what you go through as a result of that, nobody will tell you not to be late again.
Seriously.
For instance, in PTC those days, you overstay vacation for one day, and you have to wait for a whole day to make up for the one day that you overstayed.
That's right. That's right.
Definitely, it will discourage you from overstaying holidays again.
School time is school time.
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. So, you have something to say?
No, you let him go.
Okay.
I will come in.
Okay.
So as a result of the introduction of these principles from the very beginning of one's life in the Presbyterian school, it became a part of you. And it got to the point when it is no more being enforced, but it is from within. And that is where the self-discipline comes in.
Yeah.
So it starts, yes, by enforced discipline, but gradually it becomes a part of you, and therefore the self-discipline gets in, and when you go out, nobody will force you to, but you just live by it because that has become a part of you.
Interesting. Wow. So we come in with various methods, and you talk about lateness. I will talk about the skills in Agric, the basic skills in Agric. I was a small boy who went to school in Bukom, no grass in Bukom. Then I went to primary school in Accra New Town. Accra New Town experimental those days. It was like the people who work in government circles and other big people who went to school at Accra New Town experimental. And then after P6, I was told by my father that I don't have to continue to where everybody continues to in Kotobabi middle schools, but I had to be taken to a school in Eburi, and I had no idea about school in Eburi. I had been raised up as a Catholic, my father being an Anglican. And they so got to them, they said that this is Presbyterian Boys Middle Boarding School. So
mouthful. The name is even
plenty, yes. So I was taken to that place, and for the first time, I have seen the packaging of trunk and chobox. Yes. And the content included cutlass and broom. And what else? A hoe or something.
Yes, a hoe.
Yes. No, at that time there was no hoe.
Okay.
Yes, there was no hoe. And then we're introduced. Then I asked Poppy, what are we going to do with the cutlasses? And he said, oh, when we get there, we'll know.
Just like Abraham and Isaac.
Yeah, just like Abraham and Isaac. So I was taken to Eburi, Amanfo Boys for short. Yes, Amanfo Boys for short. That's the name. And early in the morning, there was the rising bell that got us gathered in the middle of a compound. And then there was a road that was checked. Everybody's name was mentioned. And I hadn't seen the mist and the fog mixed up like that before, where you couldn't see the person mention the names, and yet you had to respond, yes, sir, I'm here. And so it was done. Soon after that, then we went ahead, and then we were given areas to go and weed and sweep. And I was just squatting by some grass, and then trying to cut I hadn't cut grass before, I haven't used the colors before, not even for coconut at the beach where I grew up. Yes. And so I was trying to hold the top of the grass and trying to cut, like we cut kebab. And then suddenly, behind me was a crack of a whip. And I jumped up and landed. I said, oh, who is this? They said, foolish boy, is that how to weed? Then I realized that it might be a teacher. Yeah, so I turned around and I said, sir, I don't know how to weed, but this is my first time. I think somebody should teach us how to weed. He said, who will teach you how to weed? Look at your friends and learn how to weed. And it was let me use for the introduction of it. It was a bad experience for me.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know why it was done this way. And it's like the story is the same everywhere. Yes. So, can you give us more insight into that and why the method was used in this manner? As you said, the initial trainees were brought up in a similar manner. Did they go through the same thing, or is it because they wanted to prove that they also had power that they had to take the junior generation through the same method?
Well, if I am to conjecture,
okay,
as to why it happened that way, probably most of the young people who were coming in had not experienced anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a need to let them be aware that now they were under authority.
Mm-hmm.
So probably they wanted to introduce them to swimming by putting them in the middle of the pool, so that they realize that
if you don't do anything, you drown.
Exactly.
That's right. You don't play here.
So maybe that may have, and again, it could also be as a result of the fact that this is how we did it. This is how we were introduced.
Mm-hmm.
So we, in Ghana, they say something blame Akwano Acha. So we are just continuing the same way we So probably that was why your introduction to.
But you see, I empathize with him seriously.
Okay.
This is a person who has been virtually transported from one world.
That's right. That's
to
right.
another.
To another.
Yes. And to his rude awakening. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because the awakening was very crude.
Very, very good.
You get it?
Yes.
But I will take it that these are some of the excesses of
That's
the
right.
system or the methods as it was done.
That's right.
It could be that it wasn't institutionally sanctioned. Maybe an individual just went overboard. But you see, we cannot throw the baby water and the baby away at the same time. We have to. So these are some of the things that maybe the proverbial Presbyterian training carries along with it.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Interestingly, when some of us had the opportunity of coming to Presec, we were coming from similar backgrounds.
That's right.
I attended a school where the whole compound was concrete. So you had.
Yes.
But the only time I had seen a cutlass in my house was when my mother was using it to cut some meat that she had bought.
Okay.
And she maybe had some bones in it and she needed some.
To crack them.
Yes, but I had never encountered a cutlass. But I get to Presec and I'm supposed to weed, I'm supposed to do all that. So it all becomes
Did you have a garden?
Yes, I had a flower garden right beside the common room.
That's right.
So you watered every day?
Watered and dug.
I said we will come to that.
Interesting. Yes, very, very interesting. Yeah, so that became the trend. So we call it Presby training. Presby training. But when I go through the books, I never find these things written in there. It was passed from one generation onto the other. Yes. And when I became a teacher, some way, somehow, I tried to find some reason to put people under that kind of training, but not to grant them that rude awakening as I experienced. Yes. And somewhere, realized that it wasn't easy. Some parents would come and cry. Some came to came to protest, and they did all kinds of things. But we realized that without discipline, you can also not move forward.
Yes.
Without the discipline, but we need to grant a balance where there should be understanding of why it should be done so. Yes, why it should be done so. And so all through this journey, there have been people who have been hurt through the system, and that is why these days it's like when the new landlord of our schools, I'm mentioning GES and Ministry of Education, the new landlords of our schools are saying that no, we shouldn't use those methods anymore. No more caning in the schools, no more weeding in the schools, and no more weeding has not been written. but it has been couched in a very fine way, so that when people are weeding and you try to push them to do it, then we say that this is child abuse and things like that.
The other side of it is we say it is demeaning to agree.
It is
demeaning.
Yeah, demeaning to agree.
Or farming.
So anytime after school, anytime I see a cutlass, or when I became a senior, anytime I met a cutlass, it was like, no, don't touch me anymore. But along the line, I had learned also. In fact, initially, I think I was using it as a show. During my vacation, I took a cutlass and tried to weed unwanted grass around my house. Then I had moved to the Volta region to join my parents, and we had some grass around my house, and I wanted to put on a show. I have been through Aburi and Pesek. I know how to weed, so I need to discipline the grass around my house to keep the place kept.
Yeah.
Now I know how to control lawns and all that. Yes, so it became good. But along the line, inside school, we did a lot of weed. I mean, we used weeding a lot as punishment. Yeah. What would be your comment on that one too? Using weeding as punishment. Coming from the same background of Presby, where we did a lot of agric. Yeah. What would you say about weeding as a form of punishment?
Yeah, during our days, it was used quite frequently as punishment. And it has its pluses and minuses.
That's right.
In the sense that if you go through it, I'm sure it will discourage you from falling foul of the Lord the next time. However, those who were inclined towards agric was also saying that it was discouraging people from entering agric.
That's right.
Personally, it didn't discourage me from entering agric, because in spite of the weeding we had done in Form 1 to Form 3, when we got to Form 4 and we had to choose subjects, I chose agric. And my agric teacher, who we all call my brother, my brother took us through it, and we were successful. So it helped in a way. It helped in a way, except that, like Senior Tay said, there were excesses.
That's right.
There were excesses. For instance, you ask somebody to, in PTs, we had some funny experiences where somebody would just throw a stone and say you weed up to where the stone landed. That is taking things too far. And I believe that is some of these excesses that has made the organization you call our new landlords take some of these measures.
That's right. Interesting. So as we go along, we are trying to bring along our history and looking at how it impacted on the students and what got the people up doing what they had to do. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at more issues concerning discipline and in our schools, so far as Presbyterianism is concerned. Yeah, so we'll take on a little break.
Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Like us on Facebook at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
What does the Bible say? And what sort of light does it throw on any life-related issue? John chapter 1 verse 5 states, "And the light shineth in darkness, and darkness comprehended it not." Light for Life is a Christian panel discussion program on all life-related issues and how the Bible helps us in its day-to-day application. Jesus said in John chapter 8 verse 12, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have light of life." Light for Life will also seek to find out life application of any given Bible teaching and also see how the transformed lifestyle gained is demonstrated in all aspects of life. The program will also aim to help the unbelieving listener to gain knowledge, understanding, and wisdom in solving life issues, and more importantly, to commit him or herself to a true relationship with God. Beloved, my name is Reverend Gordon Kwashi, and I invite you to join me and my guests on the Light for Life program as we discuss various topics that includes marriage, character building, parenting, spiritual development, prayer, heaven, what it means to be a Christian, and so much more. Light for Life coming soon on Ɔdadeɛ Radio on Sunday 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. and a repeat broadcast on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. I trust that as we engage in this Light for Life program, we'll all be able to say to our God, "In thy light we shall see light." God richly bless you as you tune in.
I don't know what I would do without him. Whom shall I fear? There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love.
Say no to single-use plastic bags. They are destroying our environment. Water bodies contribute to most of the rubbish in open spaces and gutters, contributing to floods. Fish and livestock are ingesting plastics, which poses danger to our health. Plastics take ages to decompose and are harmful to the environment. Be responsible. Join eco-conscious citizens in supporting International Plastic Bag Free Day and say no to plastic bags. Use a basket, jute bag, or other biodegradable bags on 3rd July and every other day.
Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Like us on Facebook at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
So I'm going. Hello, listeners and viewers, wherever you are. Welcome. We're just taking a little break where we are discussing the issue of Presbyterianism and discipline through education. And our focus has been on how Presbyterian Church came into being and how they started the educational setups. And then we talked a little bit about the content of education. We are still discussing how the mode of operation, how the transfers of information, transfers of the gospel, transfers of apport in the classroom are all integrated, yes, through the Presbyterian system. And how come we are where we are here now? And we've been talking about the fact that Presbyterianism carries some principles along. Yeah. So we are still in the studio with my co-host, that is Agbemote, who is also an Ɔdadeɛ. Yes, and our guest is still the same, Ɔdadeɛ Eugene Lai. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are still welcome. Don't forget to send in your questions through our WhatsApp line 020009295, 020009295, or you can also send a text message through our studio phone number 030-255-1014, 0302-551-014. And don't forget that we are hooked up on Facebook and Ɔdadeɛ Radio Online or Ɔdadeɛ Radio Ghana. So wherever you are, remember that we are being produced by Johnny Adofenin, also known as Zonda, Ɔdadeɛ Zonda, and then Ɔdadeɛ Edifico, who is on the other side of town. Our technical producer is Joseph Otu, also known as DJ Use. Thank you very, very much. So welcome again. I'm your regular host, Reverend Emmanuel Ambrusa Samoa, also an Ɔdadeɛ. And so we are in the same boat, sailing together, wherever you are. If you are not an Ɔdadeɛ and you are listening to us, please let us know. We are interested also in your matter. And we are also interested in how you are also being influenced by Ɔdadeɛ or impacted on by Ɔdadeɛ, or how you can also impact on us. Because in the world we are sailing together. Thank you very, very, very much. So we are back to the topic, Presbyterianism and discipline through education. So, Ɔdadeɛ Tei, over to you.
Thank you, Reverend.
You're welcome.
And we talk about the Presbyterian discipline.
That's right.
Presbyterian discipline. So that it's been said so many times, and it's like discipline is synonymous with Presbyterianism. Ɔdadeɛ Eugene, how can you tell us how come this notion?
Right. Thank you very much once again, seniors. The Presbyterian Church, right from its inception, trained its members through education as well as even in the homes to live their lives in a particular way. And this was so much a part of its institutions that anybody who passed through any Presbyterian institution, even if the person was not a Presbyterian by faith, as a result of the training the person goes through in the Presbyterian institution, the person comes out living his life in a very disciplined manner. And we have talked about how the discipline was imbibed in one way or the other, but it became so much a part of them that when they came out, they lived in a very disciplined manner. So any product of Presbyterian school would be punctual to whatever program is invited to, would be respectful, would be hardworking, would be humble, because those were the kind of values that the training took us through. And so it got to the point when people began to equate Presbyterianism with discipline. And it became such a big thing because at a particular point in time, there were some head teachers in Accra here who, whenever anybody is posted to them as a newly trained teacher, they'll ask, which college do you attend?
Mm-hmm.
If you mention any other college, they would ask you, they'll go and tell the director that there is no vacancy in my school. But if you mention I attended PTC, Kropong, or maybe PWTC, Abri, and they say, okay, where's your appointment letter? Bring it and start work.
Immediately.
I see.
Yes. Something I read once again in preparing for this program. And I noticed that the document talks about the fact that a product born out of the Presbyterian discipline stood out from the crowd by their punctuality, which you have stressed many times, devotion and commitment to duty, neatness. So you are going to take all this. Decent moral behavior, humility, and respect for their seniors. And I noticed that it is a tradition in Presec.
Yes.
That's right.
That once a senior, always a senior. So
respect is there always.
Ɔdadeɛ, can you take these things and then give us a little more on them?
And I think I've briefly touched on the punctuality.
Sure.
That's right.
Now we take, for instance, neatness. When you attend a Presbyterian school, the way you dress becomes something different. Even when you have to iron your clothes, the way you iron them, your shoes, how they are kept, because morning inspection was regular.
Sure.
And so, in order to avoid getting on the other side of the law or getting punished for an infringement, you ensure that your dressing is impeccable. One thing I personally learned when I was in Presec was during inspection, you have to produce your 2 handkerchiefs. And so, to date, I still have 2 handkerchiefs in my pocket every day.
Wow.
Making sure your bed is well dressed, that is a key part of. So the neatness did not just limit itself to your dressing per se, but your surroundings, every part of you. That was the kind of training that we're looking through, or that we went through, and for which reason we are who we are today. Again, because of the fact that the church was focusing on the 3 H's with the training of the heart, moral training was a very important part of training in our schools. And so it is expected that when you go through this training and you come out, morally you have to be upright. And that is why sometimes when somebody is a product of a Presbyterian institution and the person misbehaves, people say, I thought you attended a Presbyterian school, or I thought you said you are a Presbyterian.
That's right.
So that is what the church, and for that matter, its institutions have been noted for.
Thank you very much.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, so as we say, discipline is synonymous with Presbyterianism. And we have come a long way coming through with these things. Now, if we ask this question, is this the same with other schools? I mean, with people trained from other schools, or it's not? Has there been some indications that the same thing that we are practiced in the Presbyterian institutions are also practiced in other institutions? And what would you think, or what do you think the effect has been?
Initially, most other institutions were not doing what we were doing in our Presbyterian institutions. But I believe that as time went on, with the kind of products that were coming out of our schools, we do not live in an island. Definitely somebody hears of best practices somewhere and would want to start implementing same in his or her institution. Because I remember when I came out of college and I was mentioning that, we used to do disco weeding in our college. To some of my colleague teachers, it sounded like Greek, because they had not heard anything like that, because their institutions didn't have any such thing. But a few years later, some institutions which were not Presbyterian were also doing similar things. And I believe that they were probably seeing the good out of what we were doing there, and saw the need to, as it were, bring it on board in their institutions. So gradually, some of the institutions have also brought on board some of the things that we used to do in our schools. Again, with the other mission schools, quite a number of the mission schools have some of the values that we also have. So we see it in other missions, except that with the Presbyterian schools, it was more enforced.
Okay.
Yes, and that is how come we have it this way.
So that, what, in your view, are the principles in the church, you get it, that leads to these standards of discipline? Do we have a certain linkage with some principles back in the church which informs these kind of lines of discipline or way of training?
The church has core values. And if you go through these core values, you would realize that the training that goes on in our schools, or that is supposed to go on in our schools, is hinged on these core values. Because one of the chief among the core values we have is discipline. we have hard work. And when somebody goes into our schools, we are looking at commitment to duty. So hard work definitely links on to that. Humility is one of the core values as well. Integrity is a core value. So these core values of the church, there are about 10 of them, godly leadership and a few other things. They are values that have played a major role in the kind of training that we give in our schools.
Okay.
And that is how come we have the products that we are producing in our schools.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. That's very good.
So it means that the methods that were used were also good. I mean, the core values and the methods by which they were, should I use the word transferred, have been effective over the generations that are passed. Yeah. Do we see the same things these days in our church and then in our schools?
This is a big
This is a big one. This is a big one. It's a big one because
That's right.
even in my local congregation today,
Okay.
I see a marked difference between the church today and the church when I was much younger. I was telling my minister in charge that when we were youth in the YPG, one Saturday we painted the whole chapel.
Wow.
We bought paint and painted the whole chapel. All the church did, or some of the elders did for us, was to provide us with some kinky.
Oh, wow.
Today, if you ask the young people to do same, it will be a little difficult.
The first question they'll ask you is how much would you pay them?
You might not get the same number of people being committed to it. So the church today is not the same. And I believe it is the same with our schools as well. Because I remember those days. In fact, I went to PTC, or now PCE, a few months ago. And I saw some of the students there dressed with their shirts tucked in.
Hanging.
And I asked, is this PTC? So things have changed as a result of, we can say, modernity. We can say the desire to make the young people of today, they will say, more free, more enjoy more rights, and a few other things. It has made things a little worse off.
Liberalism.
Too much.
Thank you. Would you say that our new landlords too may have, in their quest to let this liberalism stand, maybe let the gates open too long?
As we said earlier, there were some excesses in instilling discipline in those days. And I believe that over the years, policymakers felt that because of these excesses, then let's put these measures in place to protect the young people in a way and to prevent them from going through some
Those
of the
excesses.
yes. And in trying to do so, things have become such that we are not getting the full benefit of it. In the sense that today the doors have been opened too wide.
So that from our discussion so far, we are seeing that it looks like we have swung from one extreme to the other along the spectrum.
Yes.
What would you think should be the scenario should be going forward? Because we were having excesses in the negative. Now the other set of excesses is allowing a whole lot of things that under normal circumstances should not be coming out of our schools.
Yes. You are very much right. Now we are the other extreme. So once we have two extremes, it means that there could be a middle ground.
Yeah.
Whilst trying to reduce or bring the excesses to a minimal, we should not be also opening the gate too wide, which is what we have done presently. But we should be able to find a middle ground.
Yeah.
We should be able to have discipline without those excesses. We should be able to have moral training without those excesses. And that is where we should be as a nation if we are to develop the way we want to.
Interesting.
And would you say that we can still expect Presbyterianism to lead us?
The church is ever ready to do so.
Okay. Then we look up to you. What will be your prescription then? What will be your prescription? How should the church face this kind of dilemma we find ourselves in?
It starts from the basics. It starts from the basics. And one thing I've always said a number of times is the fact that today, most of the challenges we have is as a result of the kind of upbringing we start in our homes. If we start training the children to be disciplined right from when they are toddlers, they will grow up understanding discipline. And therefore, there will not be the need to do too much enforcement as they grow up. Unfortunately, parents of today, most of us are too busy trying to make money that we do not get the time to actually bring up our young people in our homes well. And so the child comes to the school and everything is left to the teacher. So as a church, we would start right from our congregations, doing more of parental training in our congregations, so that parents will be more up to the task. Yes. That is the beginning. And then as we continue to collaborate with government, and for that matter, the education ministry and GES, definitely the closer collaboration would ensure that we are able to bring on board what we have as a church in terms of the moral training, in terms of the discipline measures, etc.
So if I get you right, then you are proposing that this business of discipline should not entirely be left to schools. The four walls of that place we call school should not be the only place that we see discipline being enforced. But discipline should come all the way right from our homes. Good.
If I should give you an example, my late father, may his soul rest in peace, trained us such that you knew that he gets home at 5:30. By the time he gets home, one, you should have taken your bath. Two, you should have finished your homework, and you should be sitting behind your book. Whatever household chores you have to do, you should have finished them before he comes. So if he comes to the house and he sees any of these four things undone, you are in trouble. As a result of that, we were trained to follow that system. So I knew that the moment I get home, first thing I have to take my bath, I have to do my homework, I have to do my household chores, and I sit behind my book. Parents of today need to go back to some of these things.
Can they go back?
That's what I was going to ask. Because you just said that we are chasing so much money that we leave out the supervision. And sometimes the supervision is even left in the hands of a maid.
A house help.
So at the end of the day, we grow up with our children and we don't know them.
We don't know them. That is why we need to have a balance. In our quest for success by way of our careers, by way of wealth, if you make all the money and at the end of the day your child goes wayward, what would that money have been for? Again, if you make the money and leave it as a legacy for your child, and within a few years after your death all of it is dissipated, What was the need for all that suffering? So parents should try to get a good balance between working on their careers and making money whilst also training their children.
Maybe I'll come in here with one experience.
That's right.
Growing up in my holy village, you know, in my starched and ironed khaki.
That's right. Hey, those days.
And on my way to school,
Yes.
if I'm late because I didn't do what I must do and leave home early, my mom will tell me that she's going to follow me to school
Exactly.
to have me whipped. So with that, I am forced to run out of the house as fast as I can. Now, woe betides me if I turn any corner and I meet a teacher who, unfortunately for me, is holding a cane. Just for the fact that I'm wearing khaki. It means I'm a schoolboy.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter which school I belong to. For the fact that I am going to school late,
Any teacher from
any
school.
teacher
With
will
a
give
cane.
will give me the cane. So I have given you 2 instances of reprimand. My mom, my teacher. Now when I get, in spite of these 2 people, whatever they do to me, if I get to the school late, my teacher would also do it, or he or she will send me to the head teacher to give it to me, or the teacher on duty to do it. So faced with these 3 scenarios, what business do I have to be late? You get it? But what do we have now? The teacher who is even teaching my child has no right to reprimand the child, more so with a cane. Because I understand that even verbal reprimand is also a problem now. Or Reverend, what do you say?
That is true.
Ɔdadeɛ.
That is true.
Good.
That will depend on the language.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, the language.
yes.
Okay, so I'll leave that out, but then I'll dwell on the proverbial Presbyterian discipline.
Yes.
You get it?
Yeah.
So the teacher cannot do that, and even I, the parent, I leave home ahead of that child who should be going to school. So I don't know when that child leaves home. And if I am leaving home with a child, that means the child is sleeping in the car and I'm driving that child to school. So I drop the child at the gate. The child goes in. I have not even seen the teacher to know, or follow the child to the classroom to know that the child really entered that classroom. So sometimes I get out and I'm meeting students in their school uniforms who should have been in school and are walking about. So would you say that our experiment now is not yielding positive results? For me, that's what I would say. Do you share that opinion?
It is actually not yielding the results that we expect. And it is quite an interesting scenario because yesterday I was at a PTA meeting, and one thing I was telling the parents was how often they should try and interact with the teachers of the awards. Because when I was a head teacher of a basic school, I had this experience where a child was not regular in school. You send messages to the house, nobody comes. So at the end of the term, we decided that that child was going to repeat for truancy. Lo and behold, the mother came in. And then when the mother came in, he said, oh, I told the mother that, well, your child has not been regular in school and that is why we are repeating the child. So this child, every day he leaves the house. I give him money every day. So I don't believe that he doesn't come. So they brought a register. And lo and behold, the child had been to school that term for 7 days.
Wow.
The whole term, 7 days.
Not even one day in a week.
So they brought the child to the office. So where have you been going when you leave the house? I've been sitting. He couldn't tell us anything.
Yes.
So it was clear that the child had been leaving the house and not coming to school. But because there was no link up between the parent and the school, the child could play both ends again in the middle. So that is what is giving us a big challenge now. Parents are too busy to actually follow the progress of their children. Fortunately, some are doing quite well, but a substantial number of parents are not doing enough in terms of linking up with the school to follow the progress of their children. And with the restrictions on teachers nowadays too, a lot of teachers have more or less recoiled. And so that is a challenge that we are having now.
Teachers are recoiled.
In fact, I am very happy that you mentioned that. Because in the olden days, bear with me when I say olden days.
Yeah.
Bear with me because
you're here before. You're here before.
But in the times past, I know that teachers go beyond just what they do in the classroom. They show an interest in their pupils. They show an interest in the things, the outcomes from their classrooms. Would you say that because of the kind of regulations and things, that is also leading to this coiling back, holding back from teachers as we see it now?
That is a part of the reason. Another part could be the fact that teachers of today are like all other workers of today.
I hope teachers are not taking it that we are bashing them, please, because we are really looking at a very difficult thing that is affecting us all.
That's right. Affecting
so
everyone.
Please, teachers, if you are listening, don't take offense. We are all in the boat, as Reverend said. We are all sailing together, and we must all reach the destination safe.
Yes. So, like I was saying, some teachers of today would also want to, as it were, make a little bit of money to top up whatever they are being paid for. So after school, they have a few other things that they need to do. But the restrictions play a major part here. There are some who might not. There are some instances that you might show care and concern even without going beyond the boundaries of the school. But because of the restrictions, some teachers have recoiled. But that notwithstanding, there are still a good number of teachers who still show enough care about their wards or their students and how they perform and how they live their lives. And that is why even today, whenever I see anybody wearing the blue shirts, wherever I see you, if you are not properly dressed, I'll stop my car. If I'm walking, I'll stop and ensure that you dress properly before I continue.
I was at a washing bay in Medina Estates.
All right.
And these boys got there in an unregistered car, wearing Ɔdadeɛ uniform.
Wow.
And the first reaction was to talk. Then I decided to keep a low profile. Keep quiet and watch and see what exactly they were up to. Now, I mentioned that it came in an unregistered car.
Unregistered car.
The second thing is a car that should take 5 was having, I think, 8 people in the car. So when they stopped and they were getting out, they were literally unpacking themselves
from
out
the car.
of the car. And the thing that finally got my goat was they filed into a game center.
Straight away.
8 of them, they just walked straight
into a game
center, which was at the washing bay.
Wow.
So I asked myself, what should I do with these boys? Fortunately, my car had a sticker on it, and there was nothing Ɔdadeɛ about me anyway, but just the car. So when they got there, they were walking in, and I stopped them. Asked all of them to line up in front of me. So I asked them, what was the name of the school's shirts that they were wearing? What is the, because the shorts is common. But the shirts identifies them with
a lot, yes.
Presec. So I asked them, which school shirt are you wearing? They said Presec. What class? they mentioned it seriously. I've forgotten, but they were not final year students. I think they were in Form 2.
I see.
So I asked them what on earth they were doing at that washing bay at that time.
Game center.
Obviously, you were going in there. They said yes.
Must be working hours.
Working hours. They should be in class.
In class.
So I told them that is my car being washed. I am on Ɔdadeɛ.
Okay.
And I asked them about their houses. They mentioned, fortunately or unfortunately, there was one of them who was from my house.
Oh, okay.
I was in Kwanzaa.
I see.
So I told him that I'm very much ashamed. And I didn't expect him. Because in our days, when you catch people who have broken bounds or gone out of school during school hours and things, the last house you would expect, and that's, I'll say with pride, the last house you expect to find somebody
like that
is Kwanzaa house. Yes. You could find from any other house. And colleagues, I would want somebody to refute this. You see? So I told him how disappointed I was. And to cut a long story short, ordered them to file back into the car. I thought maybe they would react by grumbling or something. But with head down, they filed into the car and drove off. But unfortunately, I didn't have any way of following up because the car was on the block.
Coming straight
they
or
were washing
something.
it and that kind
Wow.
of thing. You see? So, at one time or the other, we all have been moved by the attachment with Presec.
That's true.
To take actions outside the distance, although we are not teachers. Yes. We did it because we are Presecans.
That's true.
You see? And now we can't see that happening very often. Even to the point that that person who should have authority over that child in school don't seem to wield that authority anymore. Then I ask myself, whither are we drifting?
It's a serious question.
So, manager, Ɔdadeɛ, we'll be coming to you, please, because seriously, we have a problem.
Yes. We have a serious problem. Yes. We have a serious problem at hand. Yes. And where you enter the compound, and it's like now what happens is teacher is supposed to teach in the classroom, and after that, he's finished his job, which is not supposed to be the limitation of a teacher. Teacher is supposed to get close to the students and monitor day and night, and that is why these days we even have vacation classes. So as they come on vacation, we still have a hand over them. And not just because of the money. The money is sweet, yes, but we have to work for it. We really have to work for it. I remember there were times when I was senior housemaster, and during vacation classes, the Ministry of Education had rules that every student should come to school in his school or her school uniform. Yes, and by this we identify the various students who came from various schools. But in Presec, I made sure that we still had a standard that was for Presec, not for other schools. So you may come in with a Accra Academy uniform, but once you're on my compound, you have to live as a Presecan. Once you come from a Holy that is a Holy Child secondary school, once you are coming for vacation classes in Presec, you must comport yourself as Presec students will comport themselves. And at the point I realized that I made a mark, because I would go from class, I wasn't teaching. I had to move to the classroom and go and do my thing and come back. Sir, excuse me, you are busily teaching, but I want to make a comment on this girl's dressing. The hairstyle, I don't think is good for us. So we are telling this girl that when she goes back, she should not come back to school with this kind of hairstyle. In Presec, we don't have hairstyle in our rules, but at least generally looking at issues around in society, you could tell where some of these things were going to. Yes. I always had a pair of scissors in my car for Presec students, and they knew it. And if you had any designs in your hair, I'd have to disrupt the designer because I'm a bit better designer than you. So I disrupt the design in your hair, and then I'll give you 10 minutes or 15 minutes. we had a barber at the open market.
I don't see why we were so popular.
I'll give you 10 minutes, go and smoothen your hairstyle and come back and report to me. If you don't come back to report to me, then I'll come and get you. And I had made a system where every student had the names written on beds. So at least I know your house, I know which dorm you are sleeping in. At 2 a.m., I have to come back for you. Yes. If I come back for you at 2 a.m., then you know that there's nowhere to hide.
Were you trained by unfair or flying?
Nowhere to hide.
I was working with both of them. Clay was my housemaster in Kwanzaa House. Anyway, yes.
That's why I asked you.
That's why you asked me, yes. Yes. And I built this kind of system where I work more at night than day. Yes, in Labone House, when I was a housemaster, there was that kind of gentleman agreement between Mr. Ochiri and myself and then Mr. Nyante at a point that they were there more in the morning during school hours and I will come back in the night. Yes. At the same time, I was trying to learn computer because the school was just getting introduced into computer and had put myself inside. I didn't know what a mouse was at the time, but I had to put myself inside and learn because I was interested in learning so I can go back and impart to others and then to impart to present students. And that gave me a good stand. The good stand was that on a timetable for ICT teachers, I was there on the ICT teachers program, but I wasn't teaching my visual students this time. Okay. I was teaching other classes. Okay. So it gave me an insight into other students also. Apart from getting to know people in the dining hall in the houses. Okay. Yes, I knew how to guard people in the classroom as well. And it was very helpful. And this is to support the fact that it wasn't only my subject that I was handling in Presec. My main subject was art and craft, visual arts. Yes. But discipline became my major subject along the line.
That's it. And that's also very good.
Yes, it was helpful. Yeah. It was helpful, and that is how I could reach out to touch other students as well. Yeah, there were times when I would go to Reed's house, for example, and then in the night, and when I was giving orders, then they would shout from the dark. They would put off the lights and shout from the darkness, "Mr. Asawa, please go to your house. Go to Labone house." Because I was housemaster to Labone house then. Yes, and that is what was happening. But I'll enter anyway. Yeah. I didn't dare about any barriers for entering into other houses. So I'll go into the house. I had a case, then I'll look for the housemaster in charge and say that this is what I found in the house. Yes. And probably this was a secret. The reason why I didn't apply to become senior housemaster, but I was written to report to face a panel to be interviewed for the office of senior housemaster. Okay. That is what happened to me. I didn't apply for it.
So you were already doing the job, even before you
That's the thing.
you were given the position. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Right.
So when it comes to discipline, yes. Yeah. It was interesting, yes, because I've gone through Ebri Boys. From Ebri Boys, I came to Presby Boys. From Presby Boys to Presby Training College. From Presby Training College, then I went straight into Kimbu to go and face the world. In that style of living. And over there I was interacting with the Fisherfolk's children, the Tudu boys that everybody knows as Tudu boys. I had a lot of Kimbu boys inside there. No, I said Kimbo boys. Bukom boys. Yes, I had a lot of Bukom boys to interact with. And that gave me special experience before I came back to come and teach in Presec. And I came back no more as a Derabi.
Now hardened and toughened. Right.
Very interesting, yes. So, manager of our schools.
Yes.
What can we do with we have GES people on our school board, and they get to know what is on the ground when we make reports, especially when the heads of the school, the chief executive of the school brings reports about student behavior in the schools. Is there a way where we can turn the clock around? No, not the clock. Turn the mill around and go back to our new landlords, GES, and tell them that certain things that we used to do were very helpful to us. So they should allow us to do some of them, we used to some of those things as they described it without reason. Beat a child until he gets hurt. Punishment is not to hurt, but to straighten up. And this has been the bond and the trend along the line that we try to work with discipline. Can we find a way of getting some of these things reformed so that it will be more effective on today's generation of young adults who are coming up?
That will be a little difficult in the current trend of things. For instance, for us, maybe if the board decides to write to juniors that we want to reintroduce maybe caning to some extent,
with conditions attached,
yes,
that will ensure that you don't hurt.
yes, because now it is a national policy.
Okay.
Initially, when it was being reduced, initially the first policy that came was that only the head teacher could administer.
To administer canes.
And in which case, either the head teacher or the head teacher could delegate a teacher to do it in his presence.
That's right. That's true.
And there was a limit as to the number of strokes that a child could take and all that. Those ones came, and in spite of that, there were still some excesses.
Oh, okay.
Because personally, I encountered a few instances when teachers who were colleagues had gone beyond what they should do. Which ended up with some injuries on the backs of some students. So as a result of that, this new policy came up, and which completely banned it. So it will be difficult getting the policymakers to accept caning in particular. Possibly there could be other measures that were in place that maybe we can go up with a proposal for, but caning in particular, it will be difficult to getting them to accept it to come back.
I see. Interestingly, I did a lot of caning. In fact, I always had a parent supply me with canes, which were always in water.
See, Reverend,
Yes,
let me chip in this.
Okay.
Let me chip in this.
Okay.
A lot of parents, and I know they are not going to show their faces,
That's true.
but a lot of parents would love to have the cane back. They are only shying away because of the policy.
That's right. That's
Because I know people I have talked to who are all, I don't know how to put it, bemoaning this
current
situation.
situation.
Exactly. You see, and they wish we could do something about it. And but who to bail the cats?
Who to bail the cats?
You see, who to bail the cats? Unfortunately, in the few instances where some room was allowed, just like Ɔdadeɛ Eugene said,
There were excesses.
So the where we are losing it is that where the punishment is coming not out of love, you lose it.
It's true. If it comes along with anger, you lose it.
You see, so don't lift the cane when you are angry.
Interestingly, that was my policy when caning was allowed.
Okay. Never cane when you are
Never
angry.
cane when I'm angry.
Because when you lose control, you hit the child anyhow with a cane.
And you hurt.
And that
the
is when
child.
you hurt them. That is when the excesses come.
It comes in.
In the same way, it's just akin to you picking a stone and throwing it and say weed up to. Even by the time you get there, you can't even find the stone.
That's true. You can't even find
the
the
stone. So
stone.
what you are telling me is that you just want to inflict pain on me. And these are the excesses that have informed that policy. And today we are all losing out big time.
That's true. That's true. That's
in
true.
fact, interestingly, I remember when we were in Form 3. I mean, Form 1 and 2 singing was limited to the Form 1s and 2s.
Okay.
When we got to Form 3, they said Form 3 was also supposed to go for singing.
For singing.
The very first Tuesday, only 6 of us went. But out of the 100 and something, only 6 people went. So the rest of us who didn't go were lined up in front of the administration, and Reverend was one of the teachers who administered it. Okay. But I remember personally, I received mine from him. But the next week we were all there.
That's right. The idea was to correct.
But I went to a village to buttress what you said earlier. When I used to be regional manager in the Brownsville region before I was reposted to Greater Accra.
Okay.
And on one of my visits to one of our schools, there I met the stakeholders in the school, and it included the Odi crew of the village.
Okay.
And he asked me this question that, manager, you people say they should not cane our children.
That's right.
And our children are misbehaving. Manager, as for me and my town, we said that our children should be caned. That was the Odi crew, and
that's right.
The parents they supported what he was saying.
Wow.
So that is how some people feel about it. But like you rightly said, they might not come out to say it because that is a policy.
That's a policy, yeah.
In my home, I administer caning. Because my boy, when he misbehaves, I give it to him nicely. But I take my time and do it such that
nicely. You understand
exactly.
And when you have finished, you draw him.
Yes,
that's right.
Exactly.
That's right. And that was the method we tried to use. But as we are saying, the problem has to do with everyone controlling himself or herself. That's where we have a problem. In fact, that is where the excesses come from, where there's no control, proper control of the individual teacher who is administering. This is where we had a lot of problems, and obviously it was true. So I got to a point where I had to devise other methods of punishment. And in my last days teaching, the students would say that, as for Mr. Samuel, you don't even know what kind of punishment he'll give to you, because it's not written in the book.
That's it.
The other side of it, this one I wish that no student is listening to me. The other side of it is that no matter what booking we did for you, so far as it came from me, I made sure it doesn't go into your school records.
Okay.
So when you come back one day to look for testimonial, you won't find these things. Because my intention is to straighten and correct you at the point that we are interacting.
Yeah.
So if within the period, within the term, within the year, within the 2 years, you are corrected, I don't see why it should still be on your records. So that was one thing I was doing very seriously. Yeah, I could go to very large extent. In fact, I took some people to the police because their kind of troubles that were giving us were beyond school regulations.
No, but Reverend,
and
when that is criminal. When that is criminal.
Yeah, when it's criminal, it's criminal.
Yeah,
but I'm still dealing with students that must be corrected. And they still are at the correction stage of life.
Okay.
So it shouldn't go into their records. The idea is they must be corrected within the period by any method. So I'll go to the Gun Police and
okay. I'm now getting the context. I'm now getting your context.
Yeah. And I'll take you to the Gun Police and inform Chief Inspector McCarthy of blessed memory. And what he will do also is that, Mr. Samuel, you and I, we have an agreement. We can't spoil the records of our students. I have my daughters. At that time, he had his daughters at Legon. He doesn't see how we could spoil the records of our students. And say, we agree. We are coming for the same method.
Okay.
So I leave you there, and then he will call your parents. Then when your parents come,